Helping CJ, have the Texans done it? Plus the latest mocks. And Hannah McNair, she said she thought they were going to win the Super Bowl last year. When's the last time you thought the Texans had a chance to win the Super Bowl? Let's talk about it in the locker room.
Yeah, it's the locker room on YouTube. You know what it is. Let's get it. Hey, locker room. Yeah, we in the locker room. Texas talk. Yeah, you know what we about to do. Localize every angle's what we really do. We the source, we the pulse of the city too. Landlocked, got the game in the headlock. Localize every time, can't stop, won't stop. Yeah.
Super Bowl. When's the last time you used those two words when talking about the Houston Texans? When's the last time you said, okay, this team has a chance to win the Super Bowl? Because Hannah McNair said that she felt like they were going to go all the way last year. They talked about the injuries, all that type of stuff. But Hannah, she said that she thought that they were going to win the Super Bowl. And most importantly, she said that she thought that the team believed that. I don't know that I had that feeling at the end of last year. I didn't have the same feeling that Hannah had just, and it didn't feel like the team had that feeling either. Did you have that feeling last year? Maybe before the season. I think before the season, there was a lot of reason for optimism. And there was a lot of reason to believe, okay, we'll see. This team, very young. Let's see what the receiving corps looks like. Let's see what the defense looks like. Yeah, maybe so. You know, maybe we'll figure something out. And then you start out 5-1, and you start to kind of use your imagination, but then you kind of see the offense kind of drift away. The early theme of last year, and I think they believed the first 6 games of the season, I do think that the Texans believed that they had a chance to make some serious noise late in the season. And I think it was valid because the message coming out was, we've left some meat on the bone. You remember when we talked to Stephon Diggs in the locker room and we talked to Joe Mixon, there was always like we left some meat on the bone. You know, we can be a lot better. Injuries started piling up. That never really happened. So when the playoffs came around, there was talk about maybe getting to the AFC Championship. We talked about the path, and we talked about, you know, the Jets and the Jags were the teams we used getting to the AFC Championship. But as far as believing that they were going to win the Super Bowl last year, I don't even even when we talked to Joe Mixon on the back end of the season, and Joe Mixon is the absolute, he is the alpha of this team. He's one of the more battle-tested guys on this team.
I'm a dog.
He's a dog like Gucci, like old school Gucci. But even he was like, yeah, sometimes you can get in here and you can get a little bit of luck. Like you can capture a little bit of luck. Even Mixon was saying that. So I didn't feel like they believed it. And as soon as CJ was talking about not having fun, I didn't believe that the Texans were going to win it all last year when the playoffs started. I thought they might have had a chance against Kansas City, but I didn't feel that way. But I want to ask y'all, and I actually kind of want to go through this mind exercise myself. When have you believed in your time? And this is obviously a Texans community. When have you believed in your time that the Texans had a chance to win the Super Bowl? When did you think, okay, maybe the Texans have a chance to win the Super Bowl? When has it happened? Because I didn't feel it like Hannah did, and I really don't think the players did. And I mean, if you look at what they've done with that team that they had last year, they've gotten rid of a lot of those pieces for a reason. I would say the Schaub days before the injury, I would say maybe you felt that. If we want to go back to the Kubiak days, I would say obviously that injury kind of set everything back. They were playing some of the best ball in the league. Shout out to TJ Yates for holding it down as much as he could. So I'd say maybe you believe they could win the Super Bowl then. Then we got to the BOB era. I don't think anyone really believed in Osweiler or Hoyer or Fitzpatrick winning a Super Bowl. So you didn't believe then. You got Deshaun Watson. You got a nice taste of what was going on, what this team could be in 2017 when Watson started. He went down. I actually kind of felt before that season that they were kind of a dark horse Super Bowl team in 2018. One of those dark horse type, basically the Bengals before the Bengals when Burrow came back and did his thing and they ended up going to Super Bowl. I kind of felt like they could be a dark horse Super Bowl team, the 2017 squad. They won 11 games. Ended up getting their ass kicked in the playoffs. 2018, when they were up 24-0 on the Chiefs. I mean, it's easy to see the path. Now, regardless of whether Bill O'Brien peed his pants and got too nervous because he saw Andy Reid on the side, like the water boy coach looking at puppies, except he didn't see the puppies. You're up 24-0 over the Chiefs. The Titans just upset the Ravens, so you're going to get to host the Titans in the AFC title. By then, all bets are off, right? You're feeling pretty good about them. You also in that game, and I think this was significant when it came to the emotion of the game, and this is probably just for like the people who follow more closely. The crazy thing about that game where you started kind of thinking positive, like if you had the apathy for Bill O'Brien and the Texans that you did at that time, then it kind of went away because that was the first game all season where the Texans with Deshaun Watson as the quarterback, they scored on the opening drive. He found Kenny Stills for the long touchdown. And then they took the 24-point lead. The offense kind of crumbled. The defense, obviously, the Chiefs did their thing. So that was probably a time when you believe they could win it. And it was based on a surprising start against the Kansas City Chiefs. So the Schaub injury, maybe before 2018, team of destiny type of vibe before they got their ass kicked by the Colts. And then maybe when they were up 24-0 against the Chiefs. And then maybe before this season, because you found a quarterback, you found a defense, and you thought you had an elite receiving core. So those would be my few. Last year, though, as the season played out, there's a difference between before the season and as the season played out. Because as the season played out, the two most popular words on this stream,
damn it, Bobby,
were your offense was in trouble. So that was kind of where I thought that. I didn't feel like this was a Super Bowl team last year. I feel like it was a team that could compete in the playoffs because of their defense, and we talked about this. I felt like it was a team that could maybe back into the AFC ship, but I didn't think they were going to beat Buffalo in Buffalo, and I didn't think they were going to beat Philadelphia. So no, win it all. Didn't feel that. Hannah felt it. She says the rest of the I didn't really feel that. It is an elite defense, and this is the other thing I want to get into because the topic here tonight is going to be CJ Stroud's surroundings. How are CJ Stroud's surroundings? We'll get into that first. Let's go to the soup. David White.
You ain't never hate.
swarm.
I believed in Osweiler after his HEB commercial. You liked it? I thought he was pretty good in HEB commercials. I actually thought Brock got a bad rap for that. People talk about it was dopey and so yeah, it's an HEB commercial. I thought he was good in them. Some people cringe. I thought he was good. The cowboy hat and everything. I thought it was good. I thought he embraced being the goofball. He is I think he might be the HEB commercial GOAT, for being honest. Like if you're casting funny commercials, Osweiler might be the guy. But the 2016, you were kind of lost because you had a good defense. I don't think that defense is as good as this defense can be. And you're kind of handcuffed by Brock Osweiler. I don't think CJ Stroud, regardless of his status as a quarterback or anything like that, I don't think he handcuffs you. I think there's chances for him to make plays when called upon and elevate his play. When it needs to happen. There's like everything is there. All the signs are there. You just got to improve the surroundings. Which brings me to this. When it comes to CJ Stroud and what the Texans have done for him heading into the draft. The wide receiver room from the end of the season to now has improved. From the start of season last year to the start of the season, no, not even close. But it has improved. The offensive line, you lost a good left tackle, but now you have a new mindset and you have a new scheme. At the very least, there's encouragement. At the very least, skepticism because of the unknown. So you have that. They've worked around on the offense. They've made changes. Are they good changes or not? That's up in the air. But there's reason for encouragement when it comes to Nick Caley. There's reason for encouragement when it comes to the receivers compared to the end of the season to now. Because it's important not to compare them to Diggs and Dell. So both those guys are gone, and both those guys got hurt last year. So when I talk about last year's Texans, just to make this clear, when I talk about last year's Texans versus this year's Texans, it's more like from mid-season and beyond, because you lost a bunch of wide receivers. And they weren't coming back. Like Tank Dell was not coming back this year. Stephon Diggs was not coming back this year. So that's basically what you're comparing it to. Is it great? No. Is it still one of the most unimpressive wide receiver rooms? Maybe. Depending on what Kirk has. But they've at least tried to make changes there. Now, where they've made unquestionable improvements on top of the inevitable improvements within is on the defense. This defense is going to be a top 5 defense next year. This defense could be a top 3, top 1 defense next year. And this defense could take the Texans a long way. I don't know that we've gone into a season where you feel this good about one side of the ball. The JJ years is the only year that I can remember where you felt this good about one side of the ball. For a few year stretch, you had the best player in football, and your defense was going to keep you in games no matter what. No matter who the quarterback was, your defense was going to keep you in games. You had that feeling with JJ. I think this defense has that same type of feeling, and I think this defense might actually be a little bit more complete than some of the best defenses that we've seen with the Texans. Yeah, you would have multiple guys that could get after the quarterback with JJ. I know Merciless was a dog for a little bit early on. Clowney, you really never knew if those two were going to be able to gel together. And you had a decent secondary. You had a good secondary, solid linebacking core. But with this defense, you have 2 elite edge guys in Will Anderson and Danielle Hunter. Will Anderson's only going to get better. And I'm going to connect this to CJ in a second. I have a question for y'all. So we'll get to that in a second. But we've kind of dismissed the offense because there's a lot of unknown. But you have the elite edge guys. You have the elite corner duo. How elite, who knows? But both of those guys look like their best balls ahead of them. You have playmaking safeties. And you have linebackers that are intriguing. And oh, by the way, you have a coach who, if there are weaknesses or there's not as much star power, linebacker, interior defensive line, he's shown that he can get the job done with them. So you feel damn good about this defense. I don't know, like this is one of those things, and this is what I think Hannah and Cal are talking about. What this defense can become from last year to now with a full offseason and a little bit of growth, it's terrifying. This is a top 10 defense. This could be a top 10 defense and still be somewhat disappointing based on the expectations they've laid out. That's how good this defense can be. We don't try to factor in health, but this defense could be the 10th ranked defense in the NFL, and you could be kind of disappointed because of the expectations they've laid out. And that's the same scale that I judge CJ on. It's about the expectations that CJ Stroud has laid out. I always tell the story about one of my OGs where he says where a player in the locker room was getting mad at him, NFL locker room. And he told the player, hey, do you want me to treat you like the late draft pick you once were? Or do you want me to treat you like someone who's trying to be an Pro Bowl caliber guy? You want me to change it? I can change it. But you've set that up. You've set that up to where, yeah, I'm going to be a little bit more critical. That's what the defense is right now. This defense is incredible. Talent-wise, coaching-wise, development-wise, D'Amico has that on lock. And I'm bringing this up for a reason. Because when we talk about CJ Stroud's surroundings, we focus on the defense, or we focus on the offensive line, and we focus on the receivers, rightfully so, when he's on the field. When he's on the field, his surroundings, they've got to be nice. The offensive line has to block for him. They have to figure stuff out. The play caller has to know how to adjust.
Damn it, Bobby.
You got to have weapons, guys being able to make plays in the pass game, guys being able to block. You got to have that. So when we talk about surroundings, we talk about that. When we talk about success for a football team, we talk about that. But we've talked about other versions of this earlier in the year. Can you make a case that having an elite defense is more valuable for a quarterback than just an okay offensive line or an elite receiving core? Can you make that case? Because you always hear, and obviously they can't block the way they did last year, they're going to be screwed. But you always hear, well, they don't have a chance in hell if that offensive line isn't great. They don't have a chance in hell if the receivers are. And from an offensive standpoint, yes, you want to make your offense as good as possible. But which is more valuable to reaching the ultimate goal that we just spoke about, that Hannah McNair brought up? Because I'm bringing this all together. That ultimate goal that she brings up, those two words that I don't think they had any business mentioning at the end of last year, she does, that we've only felt less than a handful of times is even a possibility in the history of this franchise. And a lot of people would say even those were delusional feelings. What gets you closer to doing that? And what's more quarterback friendly when it comes to reaching that goal? Is it the elite defense or is it an elite offensive line? Some teams have both. A lot of the teams that we mentioned, a lot of them have both. Like the Philadelphia Eagles have both. So it's not an either or type of situation. But has an elite offensive line ever been like the focal point of winning a Super Bowl? We go to the 90s Cowboys if we want. That was also a top 3 defense. Hell of an offense. But you've seen elite defenses carry teams pretty deep. So does it lower the margin of error? Does it give the offense more wiggle room? I don't know. But which is more important? Because I do think the defense is just, there's a natural thing. And I think to a certain point you do it, especially if you're just focused on the offense. But when we're just talking about a complete team and we're talking about a quarterback's surroundings and putting him in position to succeed, can't you make a case that an elite defense is more valuable over time than just an elite offensive line? In other words, are the surroundings as bad as maybe we think? I mean, would I trade skill position guys with other teams? Like if you could trade the Texans skill position guys for other, probably, maybe, yeah. Offensive lines, yeah, most of them. There's not too many defenses that I would take over this one. And that might mean more than anything. Does defense win championships? I don't think so. But CJ Stroud also isn't Trent Dilfer. You know, he's not a game manager. And we saw it last year. Like, we saw the Cincinnati Bengals and what their offense was doing. And what was their problem? Why? I mean, they just paid T. Higgins. They paid Jamar Chase. Joe Burrow, one of the better quarterbacks in the league. What held them back? Defense. When they made the Super Bowl, was their offensive line that good? Not really. So I think the offensive line can be overcome. Do you want it as bad as it was last year? No. But I do think when talking about surroundings and talking about CJ, I think that the surroundings kind of play out. On the chat, yeah, that's Gavo says, Landry, don't jinx us like you did. You jinxed us comparing us to all those offenses in history like you did last training camp. I didn't jinx anything. I wish I could jinx something. I wish I was that powerful. I think you're talking about when they had 3 wide receivers. Yeah, I did the Rams, Colts, that study, the Broncos. Yeah, when you have 3 wide receivers, yeah, we did the wide receiver production and the running back production, what that looked like. I don't know that I said that they were one of the best offenses of all time. Pretty sure I didn't. I'm pretty positive I didn't jinx them, but yeah, that was different times. But you definitely need both. I do agree with that. But yeah, it was just the difference. I think it was like Oltz, Bruce, whatever. The comparisons of how you distribute the ball, because the big question last year was who's going to get the most targets, I guess. So that's where we went. But yeah, I can't jinx anything. Let's look at a little mock draft. And I have 3 Nick Caley scenarios that I want to get into as well. 3 Nick Caley scenarios. This is kind of a checker chess type of exercise. And I really haven't thought out what the worst case scenario looks like. The best case scenario is very, very clear. And we'll see what the thing is. Yeah, Yusuf. Yeah, he remembers that stream. Yeah, when we talked about that. Yeah. I wasn't saying they're the best. I didn't jinx him. Bobby Slowick jinxed him, and maybe a little bit of everything mentioned with the O-line, etc. All right, so this is Lance Zierlein's mock. He has the Tennessee Titans, aka the old Oilers. He has them taking Cam Ward. This is a foregone conclusion. This seems very inevitable, doesn't it? That Cam Ward's the guy. Then he has Carter going to the Browns. Kind of feels like nobody's really talking about Carter. Hunter to the Giants, Campbell. So no surprises here. Graham to the Jags would be very surprising. This would kind of have like a different type of feel of them taking Travon Walker in 2022. That would be funny, actually. Like, I don't think Texans fans would be too terrified of that. So we don't have any running backs going in our receivers going in the top 10. He actually has the Bears taking Ashton Genty, which would be nice for them. Kelvin Banks, he's going 11 to San Francisco, so that's gone. And then right after that, Matthew Golden goes. And you start to wonder about receivers. Again, this is Lance Zierlein's mock. So he has McMillan going to Seattle, despite having Cooper Kupp and JSN. And there goes Omarion Hampton, number 20 to the Broncos. So got to look out for that. Sean Payton wants his back. That would be a crush for me. Barron slides all the way to 21. That's pretty wild. If that falls, I mean, that's just kind of a fall in the lap type of thing. Then Loveland, the tight end dream's dying. And he has the Texans actually. He has the Texans actually not even going wide receiver. He has him going Donovan Jackson out of Ohio State. I don't think we even saw Ibuka on here. So I think he has Ibuka falling into the second round, which is kind of something that we really haven't entertained the possibility of, unless I'm tripping here. Hampton, Barron, Loveland, Sanders 24, trade, Donovan Jackson. So he has him taking a guard. Yeah. And no Ibuka. So Ibuka falls into the second round. He has him taking a guard. I do wonder how much of a possibility that is if there is an Ibuka fall. Because I don't think we've really entertained it because we just assume that no matter what, they're going to take Ibuka if he's there. That would be pretty insane if they did that. I think the internet would break. I think there'd be some disappointed people. I think there'd be some people begging for the Texans to trade up in day 2. But they pass on Ibuka and they take Jackson. Don't know that would be the greatest thing. Now, meanwhile, I read this on PFF. Pro Football Focus, they put out their needs for the Texans. And I always judge mock drafts by if they have the Texans' needs right. Because we look at it through localized lens. So if they don't even really have the needs right, then you can kind of dismiss it. But the needs that Pro Football Focus mentioned were O-line and wideout. I think that's 100% accurate. They say the perfect fits for the Texans would be Kelvin Banks out of Texas and wide receiver Jalen Noel, who's getting a lot of love as far as being like a second round pick and maybe someone who rises above the mediocrity of what this receiver class looks like and how it's being talked about leading up to the draft. We never know how it's going to end up, but what that looks like. But they say that Banks and Noel would be the perfect 1-2 punch for the Texans in the draft. That would be interesting. Clayton says he read an article. Where? About us moving up to get Hunter first and second and the third to Miami. So you go 1, 2, 3 to Miami. So Travis Hunter falls all the way to Miami. I don't know if that happens. I mean, that's a tough one. I do think he's the best receiver in the draft. And I think he could just be a reserve corner for the Texans. Texans wouldn't need him as a starting corner. We talked about this today on SNL. If you could just say that any prospect is perfect for the Texans, no matter what, who would you take? Travis Hunter was my number one because he gives you the best receiver in the draft, and he gives you a really good corner that can be kind of a reserve guy, and you're not asking him to just go all out playing both ways. But I don't know. Like when you say I read an article these days, it's kind of dangerous. Never know what that means. Never know where that's going. But I think Hunter's the best receiver. It'll be crazy if someone uses him as more of a corner than receiver. I think that would be a mistake. The Nick Caley thing. I have 3 scenarios for Nick Caley, the offensive coordinator for the Texans. Sean McVay had some pretty glowing things to say about his boy Nick, as he said to Stoots. But I have 3 what ifs. And 'tis the season of hypotheticals. And when you have mysteries, hypotheticals are sometimes all you got. There's no just like sit and see, let's wait. Nah. We're going to play the what if game when it comes to Nick Caley. And I have 3 what ifs. My first one is, what if Nick Caley's great? What if this guy establishes himself as the best offensive coordinator in the game? What if it's just a couple of years of Ben Johnson? What if this is like, and the Lions did a pretty good job of getting Ben Johnson weapons, if we're being honest. They built a nice offensive line. They used premium picks for skill position guys. They got Laporta in the second. They did a good job. But let's pretend that Nick Caley's awesome. Let's pretend he's the best offensive coordinator in the league. Great. His time here is not for long. He's going to be gone before we know it. He's the man. That means that you're a Super Bowl contender. Period, point blank, end of story. And we talked about what Hannah said, but the reality is with this defense, and I can't function as if this is the best case scenario is a thing, because that would just be blind faith. There are some things that I want to play out. So that's why we're covering the base of all three. But what if he's great? What if Nick Caley's awesome? What if he's the absolute man? You're going to have that elite defense. If he's great, that means he's going to maximize his talent. You're going to have a serviceable offense. If he's great, sky's the limit. Sky's the limit, because the defense is going to do their part. So if he's great, sky's the limit. He's not going to be here long. And then the bad part about that is DeMeco Ryans will have to figure out what he wants to do next. Who's going to be the next OC? Don't have to worry about that right now. We got to see what the hell the offense is before we talk about that. But that's the what if. If he's great, you got a team that's competing near the top. You got a guy who's not going to be here long. And DeMeco Ryans going to have to go back to square one and figure something else out. A little bit of checkers, short term, the coming season. A little bit of chess with DeMeco having to find someone else eventually, which is a good problem to have. So that's the what if Caley's great. That's what that looks like. That's best case scenario. Next one, what if Caley's okay? What if Caley's just all right? What if he's kind of Bobby Slowick-ish? What if it's not quite as bad as Bobby, but it's just kind of blah? It's just kind of all right. Which, by the way, it could be in year one, and then maybe he gets better. That's the other thing. You're growing with this guy. You're growing with this guy. This isn't just a one-year thing. He's never done it. We'll see what it looks like. I would rather have a first-time play caller than an experienced one. Because everyone, let me tell you, everyone in the history of football that's ever called plays at one point was an unexperienced play caller. I think that's the dumbest way to look at things. Most former play callers that need jobs, they failed before. What if he's just all right? Pretty much the same as last year. You got a really good defense, but maybe you can sneak your way into the AFC Championship game, but the Super Bowl stuff, nah. Can't just be okay. Got to be really, really good. Great. So if he's okay, I think your floor is still pretty good if he's okay. If he's okay, you have a decent floor. Ceiling's probably not as high. Win the division, make some noise, ho-hum if he's okay. Because we're going back to the defense, and that's the CJ Stroud surroundings. But here's the next one. Here's the next one. The next one is where we really got to think. What if he is a worse version?
Damn it, Bobby.
Of Bobby Slowick? What if Caley's bad? If Caley's bad, then, you're competing to make the playoffs, I would think. And then in 2 years, you're looking for a new offensive coordinator. Like, he's getting at least 2 years, right? Bobby got 2 years. He's getting at least 2. Bobby had great first year, though. But if he's bad, does that mean that DeMeco Ryans and Nick Caserio would be on the hot seat? Do you just can you hire two failed offensive coordinators? The good thing is, when you coach defense as well as he does, you're not going to hit rock bottom. When your team responds to you the way it does, you're not going to hit rock bottom. See Mike Tomlin in Pittsburgh. Now, Mike Tomlin hadn't gotten a CJ Stroud since Roethlisberger left. But that's kind of where you're at. But how do you trust if this doesn't go at least better than what Bobby Slowick was? How can you not start to trust D'Amico? This is big. This is big. This is massive in the short term, and this is massive in the long term. And the beauty of it is they have the defense. I like listening to Nick Caley so far. I think it's not entertaining or anything, but quite frankly, it kind of sounds a little bit like Sean McVay. Sean McVay is one of the current faces of coaching royalty for me, especially that pipeline. Pause, but you know what I mean. Coaching tree sounds a whole lot less suspect. But this has got to be, this has just got to go well. They just have to be well coached. You might not be able to solve all the problems personnel-wise. They just have to be well coached. And that's why the CJ Stroud surroundings are so interesting. But you got the defense. So we'll figure that out. We'll see what this offense looks like. And it's going to be a mystery. Like, there's no amount of research you can do to prepare yourself for what this offense looks like. You're just guessing. They've told you it's going to be a hybrid. We've never seen him run an offense. We've never seen this entire dynamic of what's going on. It's a new thing for CJ Stroud. CJ Stroud's never done this. So what this dynamic looks like is going to be really, really interesting. And it's going to be really, really crucial and really, really important. But nobody knows what it is. When we go to mini camp, when we go to training camp, when myself and Cody Stoots on SNL, my stream, 10:30, Monday through Friday, his channel, videos daily, we're going to try to give you a picture of what it looked like, but we don't know. Nobody does. Unless somebody has like some really, really close relationship with Nick Caley, we don't know what that's going to look like. And that's exciting. That's the beauty of this year. Like, sometimes when you cover training camp of a good team, you are grasping, you're looking for needles in haystacks when it comes to trying to figure out what the hell is the most exciting things about training camp. Oh, damn, there's a battle at left guard. Oh, this undrafted guy might make the team. Every team has that. Let's just look at the big storylines last year compared to this year. If we're doing the comparison last year to this year, let's just get ready for training camp, man. I don't want to get ahead of myself. I know it's draft week, but let's just kind of let's get a little hype. Let's way too early preview of training camp, okay? Last year you had no competition on the offensive line. You pretty much knew how the receivers were going to line up. You knew CJ was your quarterback, and you knew that Joe Mixon was your running back. Okay, you knew it. Defense, Kamari Lassiter was the guy from day one. The safeties, you kind of knew who they were. I guess the D tackles, Mario Edwards and Tim Settle, that was exciting, but you knew Daniil Hunter and Will Anderson were going to hold it down. That was it. This year, you got a defense that could be elite. You're kind of going to get to see how that shapes up. There's not going to be a lot of position battles, although perhaps on the interior of the D-line there might be. But you're just going to see how these guys work together, how it all gels. That as a whole is nice. You're not really wasting much time on that. But on offense, we don't know what the offense is. So that's going to be one thing you're looking at. We don't know who 4 of the 5 offensive linemen are going to be in the starting lineup. Now, I say 4 out of 5 because I've heard Cody say this, and I roll my eyes at it. You know how sometimes you talk to someone and then you walk away and you're like, damn, man, I should have said this when he said that. Or, man, this is how you handled it. If the Texans paid, let me just make this very clear. If the Texans paid Cam Robinson $14-15 million, whatever the final number ended up being, and he's not a starting tackle, then they maintain their deserved reputation of dummies when it comes to evaluating offensive line. I think that's fair. If you're paying a guy $14-15 million after about a week after trading your starting left tackle, and he doesn't start, then the stupidity that we've seen and the foolishness that we've seen when it comes to the offensive line, it's not going anywhere. It hasn't improved. Let's just be serious. What do you think is going to be your swing tackle? So you have that competition. You have a lot of competition on the offensive line. Don't know what the offense looks like. Competition on the offensive line. That's a lot to watch at camp. You better have that head on a swivel. You better be paying attention. Can't be sitting over there chatting. You better be paying attention closely to a lot of things. Then you have the tight ends. What did Caley say? What's his background? He likes tight ends. What are they going to look like? How are they going to be used? What does him liking them even mean? Does it mean anything? Keep an eye on that. Wide receiver, after Nico Collins from Christian Kirk down, tons of competition. We don't know what the hell that looks like. What's Christian Kirk look like in this offense? Oh, we don't even know what this offense is. So there's that. So you don't know what's going on at wide receiver. And then at running back, what are they doing behind Mixon? What's going on? Last year, you just kind of handed it to Dameon Pierce. You brought in Cam Akers. What are you doing there? This is going to be a wild camp. This is going to be there are going to be storylines in Costco bulk. This is like Crane Costco bulk. This isn't like just grab something and put it in your cart. This is like those crates that they have above the items. That's how much the position battles and the storylines in camp. That's how intriguing those are. It's going to be wild. It's going to be real wild. So I'm pumped for camp. Camp's going to be crazy. It's not going to be a going through the motion. Let's wait till the season starts. No. Sometimes when you get 3 weeks, 4 weeks into camp, it's like, we already know what's going on. We don't know anything. We don't know anything about this offense. And that's cool. Prime time on the chat. What do you call Caley offense being bad? What has to go wrong? It has to look like slowing. The inability to adjust. The inability to put guys in good positions to succeed. It's not just like a numerical thing. Like you can have a bad offense and it still not be a disaster. A lot of times talent limits you. Maybe experience, maybe he's not going to be a finished product when it comes to the offensive, to being an offensive coordinator, but you've got to you just can't look lost. You can't just, it's the overall way in which they run it. It's got to look better than it did with Bobby. But I don't have like they got to average this many yards. They got to be this high up. This needs to be their ranking. I don't have that. But I think it just has to function better. Like, what is CJ Stroud going to look like in camp? Is he going to look comfortable? What's he going to say? What's the offensive line going to look like? Because there's going to be some days where the defense just completely roughs up the offense. And they did it last year. That was kind of the first warning sign that we had that the offense wasn't going to be good. And we brought it up a number of times, like, how much do you make of this? And there's always the notion, well, the defense is ahead of the offense at this point of the year. Always? I don't know about that. I think there's times where it is, but I don't know if that's like that's like a frequent thing. But I mean, they dominated the offense last year. We should have known. Mario Edwards Jr. looked like J.J. Watt in training camp. So that was kind of a warning sign. It's going to happen this year too. I mean, it could happen if the offense wasn't good. There's a lot of excitement for camp and CJ Stroud's surroundings. Maybe we're looking at the wrong spot. Maybe we're looking at the wrong spot. I will say this. If the Lance Zierlein mock draft, if that plays out and they pass on Ibuka for a guard, be some fun internet reaction. Very, very fun internet reaction, to say the very least. Do we call Nick's offensive success game management and let the defense go in? Sure. If that's what he needs to do, then sure. Having that balance and having that grasp is part of the good Patriot way. We've seen the bad Patriot way, the good Patriot way. And I think was it D'Amico or Nick who brought this up? But I mean, there were times with New England where they were a running team one week, and then the next week they were a passing team. They have Tom Brady, I know. But there's no, like, if the offense is scoring 20 points a game and the defense is allowing 17, that's fine. Figure something out with that. But he's just got to have the grasp of it. He's just got to have the grasp. We'll see what that looks like. Worst kept secret in town when it comes to the AFC South has been the Indianapolis Colts. The Indianapolis Colts want Tyler Warren. And if they don't get Tyler Warren, there's going to be a lot of upset fans. He is the 100% most popular pick for Indianapolis. We also know what Tennessee is going to do. Tennessee's taking Cam Ward. So those two teams, they have their wish list. One of them controls it. The other one doesn't. It'll be interesting to see what happens in front of Indianapolis, because this has been a completely telegraphed desire for the Indianapolis Colts, to the point where I wonder if they almost trade up with how much they've talked about tight ends, how much they want Tyler Warren. I wonder if Indianapolis trades up. Or I wonder if a team who maybe wants Tyler Warren knows that they have to trade ahead of Indianapolis. Because it's been the worst kept secret behind the fact that Cam Ward is going to be the number one pick, it looks like. Between those picks, though, in the AFC South, and notice the other three teams in your division are drafting relatively early. That kind of tells you about the state of the AFC South. Although when you're drafting that high and you're not just a completely dog-butted team, Tennessee is. We'll throw them to the side. But as far as Jacksonville and Indy, you can turn things around relatively quickly with good decision-making. I don't know what the hell Jacksonville's doing. I have no clue what Jacksonville is going to do. There's been talk about them taking receivers. There's been talk about them taking D-line, edge. Jacksonville is going to be the wild card of this draft. Now, after Cleveland is going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to see what they do. New England might surprise some people, but it's not going to be like a massive surprise. We think wide receiver, O-line could be their thing. Although Stoots brought this up, and I thought this was a good hypothetical. What if New England decides they want Tyler Warren? What if they brought in Stephon Diggs because they don't like the receivers in this draft? In other words, they looked at McMillan, they looked at Golden, they looked at Ibuka, who Lance Zierlein today mocked going in the second round, and they decided, okay, we're going to take Tyler Warren and we're going to get Stephon Diggs on essentially a one-year deal. What if that was their approach? Who knows? What if Jacksonville decides they want Tyler Warren? That could be a possibility as well. They lost Evan Ingram. That was Trevor Lawrence's security blanket for the last few years. He was top 5 in the league in catches 2 years ago. So they're just going to move on from that? I know you got Brian Thomas Jr., which ain't bad to have. And him and Lawrence didn't really get it going last year because of the injury. What could they be in for Tyler Warren? They could go D-line. They could go off, like offensive line. I wouldn't be shocked. Like Jacksonville is really, that's where it intensifies, especially through the localized lenses. Because there's going to be some stuff that goes on in front of them, but what is Jacksonville going to do at 5? and they got the new coach. Tennessee might as well make their pick right now. Is Warren a Bowers-type talent? Don't know, but I do know that the NFL saw what Bowers did last year. Warren's getting the same type of hype. A lot of times you try to copy that. Also has the luxury of being in a very weak wide receiver draft. Like if this were last year's wide receiver group, even the last three, I don't know that we're talking about Warren going this early. Like, I don't even know that Indianapolis would have to worry about it. But the way that it's kind of played out and the way that it's shaped up, Indianapolis might very well have to even trade up to get Tyler Warren. It's going to be wild. And the craziest thing is that your division's so bad that the three teams, I mean, they're going to be drafting in the first couple hours of the draft. So when we're on the stream, we'll be able to localize and talk about what that means for them. It's a gift as we await the Texans at 25 and what the hell they're going to do. Whose call is it, too? Wondering what dynamic that is with Nick and D'Amico. How much say does Nick Caley have? I don't think they're looking at him as like a short-term coach. I think he probably has an opinion. I don't know that Slowick was like drafting guys. I don't know his personality warranted someone who was going to stand on the other side of the table and give his opinion that strongly. Maybe he would. Maybe that's offensive to someone who watches as much tape as Bobby Slowick did, used to work at PFF. But who knows what that dynamic will be between them. There's a lot of mystery. Tomorrow will be a few weeks out of the draft. Can't wait. Going to be fun. CJ Stroud's surroundings. Maybe we should be looking at the other side of the ball instead of what he breaks the huddle with. Subscribe, like, ride along. Always remember when it comes to this Texan stuff, we're all in it together. Business is picking up. Appreciate y'all for coming through. Tomorrow live, 4 o'clock, SNL per usual. And I'm here at 10:30 Monday through Friday. Peace.
Can't stop, won't stop. Yeah, we top 2 and we not too. Plugged in daily digital on YouTube. We got taste for days. Opinions to give, we got takeaways. If it's up, then it's up. We number one. You don't need to try your luck. Locker room, yeah, we in the locker room. Texas talk, yeah, you know what we about to do. Localize every angle's what we really do.